when you don't have time, you're like, these are all the things I want to do, right?
Mhm.
And then when you have the time, you're like, damn, I don't have time to do these things, right? But I've had other interests that I've been working on for a long time. And now, with the help of some of my people, I call them mentors that I'm dealing with, I'm having the chance to develop some of the stuff that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So, personal growth. And one of the main things for me is I like to give back to the community. It's really big for me. So I like to anyhow I can, if I can help out others just by giving them knowledge, letting them know that there is another way than the way that we are going now. So a lot of that I've been focusing on, and also I like to dabble in some stock options trading.
Love it.
Just things that I've been wanting to do it forever, and I got the time now. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
He's dabbling on to like stocks.
So
he's
stocks and options, and I've always wanted to do it. Now I get a chance to do it, and and while I'm doing that, I get to learn a lot. I have some great friends that we've met along the way that are helping me out. So that type of personal growth is going on as well, and I'm always learning more about real estate. Like the things you learn living in the country, I tell you, you would never know some of the things that go on, right? But you go to Calabogie, you got to worry about, oh, the well, you only got so much water in a day. I didn't know you had a limit for your well.
We're such city people.
We're like city people. We're like, you turn the water, all of a sudden the water goes off. You're like, what happened? Right? And then so the water's gone. I'm like, now what? Right? Yeah. And we're city people. We're like, what do you do? So we call one of our local contacts. He's like, oh, just press the button on the water tank. I'm like, what is that? Where's the well pump? What are you talking about? So,
I love it.
So you're on the phone and step-by-step instructions how to get the water to come back on. Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Plus
he manages all the properties.
Yeah.
So Dave manages all the properties. That's his role. We didn't talk about your role, but
I was gonna ask.
Yeah. Tell him about
So one of the main things that I do is we try to once Carina acquires the properties, I try to find the best use so that we can maximize the income coming into that property so that we can maintain that property as we move through the steps, right? So when we had our first project, which was the TOD, that involved creating a space in the back, upgrading the units, all right, and then being able to force the appreciation on the units. So now they're, instead of renting for a little bit, they're renting for a lot, right? We've got to do that with a lot of our units, and another one of our rentals that was okay. We have a basement unit, but it wasn't being utilized properly. So we configured it to make it more usable, and then by reconfiguring it, gave us more space, and now we're able to, again, have a better rental because now the space is maximized, right? And with Calabogie, because it's such a huge project, that was the managing of the whole, ripping the thing apart down to the bones and building it from scratch, right? So, and
the existing house.
We saw the before and afters, and it's night and day. If I can, I may have some pictures that you have sent me, Carina, so maybe I'll put it on the video, but either way, that was such a cool project just to see the transformation of that and what you were able to do with your team.
And he's putting, so the property itself has a house, but it also has a big barn. So we brought in some people, and they loved the place, and they thought, you know what, this is a great space for like an events where we can host some events with the barn. And so he finished the barn because it was like semi unfinished.
It was kind of like just gravel, right? And you really can't do anything with gravel. So we put down a foundation, we just cemented it. Right now we have a flat floor. It's great. Now it's a beautiful space. It's more open. We ripped apart the old deck that was rotting and decrepit and falling apart and full of a whole bunch of animals that we won't talk about. And and we got rid of that, put in a brand new deck, made it more, brought it up to the millennium. It was very dated, and that in itself is just upping the property value. So that we're really confident that the steps that we've made and the strides that we've made in the last 6-8 months have really increased the value of the property, which is only going to help us in the long run, right, as we move forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So people will always ask us, Sarah, like, why do you even bother? Like, why do you bother, renovating the place, or why do you bother like doing all of that work if you're going to demolish, right? Because we're in the land development space, but there's multiple reasons. Like our investors, we put their money on the property, so it's our job not only to maintain their investment, right? The property has to be maintained. We also use the revenue that comes in to pay our investors, right? So it's like multi-purpose. But then also, like for Calabogie, we're keeping that cottage. So eventually, I've designed it so that the whole development is around the house.
Yeah.
Whatever happens in that whole development, we get to keep it no matter what. So it's okay to do that. And also because the projects, they take multiple years.
Yes.
There's nothing that takes like a few months. It's all like 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year projects. So at the time, why not make money? Why not get cash flow?
Yes. And you're absolutely right. Like on one of our project, like Leonard and I went back and forth whether we should have finished the basement or not. And initially it looked like we had spent more than we wanted to, because the money that we were making in a year from that basement wasn't going to be kind of paid back within that year. But then, long and behold, we're probably going to hold this property for another year, and the basement is actually bringing in more money than the upper level. So you're absolutely right. Yes, you have to maintain your investors' money. It has to be secured on something that makes sense. But also, you never know how long the project is going to take. So you definitely have to plan for that. And every time, we think about lengthening, like selling next year, I keep hearing your little voice in the back of my head. It's like, it must cash flow or else don't buy it. And I'm like, she's so right. Like a lot of people are like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, because Carina said so.
But look at it now. Think of it now, right? With the market the way it is, if you did it right, and you've increased it so that it's maintaining itself at least, or hopefully cash flowing, but at least carrying itself, you can wait out bad times like this, like what we're in right now, right? That's why I'm saying, like, put the pieces together up front so that in the case the market changes or something happens, you can at least wait it out. It helps.
I think every one of the renovations that we've done has significantly increased the cash flow in carrying the properties. And think about it. So now we have, let's say you have a 3-unit building, you increase the cash flow. Well, your rents are still going up marginally, but they're still going up every year. So no matter what, your cash flow, it just keeps going up and up, right? So we have the cash flow. So now that, all right, say we have to refinance, fair enough. We might be spending extra $300 a month. Well, that $300 a month, it's already extra revenue because we're cash flowing. So it doesn't hurt as bad. We wait it out and then we refinance, right? And there we go. We're back in the positive again. So it's a cycle. You have to have it there so you can just
cushions.
So you can work through it.
That's some great advice that you guys are giving. One thing I wanted to ask is that going through a couple of projects now, we're noticing, and Carina, you said that before, that like obviously things don't always go as planned, whether it's land development, whether it's multifamily, flips, burrs, whatever it is. But specifically in the land development, like the city can literally come and say no, and that's it. Like that's just that, and there's maybe no way around it, or maybe you just have to pivot. So what gives you guys the courage to keep going in that space? Because I know how hard it can be, So what made you guys persevere to continue in the land development?
Honestly, like I think I've said this before, but I have a really high tolerance for risk. That is one thing I'll say, and it's not a good answer. Totally not a good answer, but I really do. And Dave is more of the like conservative, I'm more of like,
she's like,
let's
throw all the money out there. And I'm like,
you need that. You need that couple.
I feel it. I feel this one, and like. I don't know. There is something about my intuition. I will say, like, I don't know what it is. So not a good answer to your question. But I try to hit the checklist, right? Like if there is a checklist, you want to have those checks and go through as much of that ticked off in the right direction, so that you make sure that it is a goal project. But you're right, there's still like going to be that one or two that, or whatever, that just kind of falls off the wheelbarrow, and it's like, that's not what was planned. That's not what we talked about. And I was actually just on a call with a lady just before you guys, and the exact same thing happened to her, where the city was like, yep, this is what the new official plan is going to say, and this is what we're going to allow you to do. The exact same thing happened to her. And then when they put the official plan through, it was not what they had told her. And so she had to go and ask for an official plan amendment. So that was a whole other process that she went through. However, the counselor, who she had been talking through the whole entire time, fought for her to get at least her refund back for the official plan amendment.
Wow.
So, so that was really interesting, right? So, I mean, you're right. Like, there's always going to be something that comes. We've always, I don't know, we've tried to minimize the risk, but you're never going to be like fully de-risked.
Sometimes get thrown for a loop, and the longer you do the due diligence, like, we had that one property where we were just about to buy it, beautiful land out in the country, and we find out there's not enough water for our property. And it was just right before we were about to close. We were going to buy this thing.
Yeah.
And then
I even had all my investors like
everything lined up.
Everything lined
up. And like, oh, there's no water allocated for your property for the next 2 years. And we're like, oh, well, that's good to know.
So we didn't move forward with it. So there's no real answer that I can give you, except we try to put the terms so that we're doing all of our due diligence as much as possible. So a long due diligence process, conditions, I should say, conditional periods, so that we can go through as much due diligence as we can. And yes, you're spending money doing it, but I'd rather spend, that money and make sure that it's solid, and instead of losing like millions of dollars.
Yeah. So you rather lose a couple of thousands or a few thousands rather than millions later on, right?
Yeah. I mean, some of our due diligence are $50,000-$60,000 worth of due diligence, and you might not even proceed with that project.
Yeah.
But I'd rather lose that 50,
millions.
60 than millions, especially when we're dealing with investors.
Yes, I was gonna say, like, sometimes it's not even your money. Like, you could lose billions and it's not yours, right?
Exactly. So just trying to do as much of that, and then of course, like, knowing the numbers and seeing like the possibility of it, and just having multiple. I talk about multiple exit strategies. Said that on and on and on again. So having that multiple exits at least gives you another like level of like, okay, if this doesn't work, let's go here,
Yeah. Okay. That's you're dropping so many nuggets, like, and I think everybody's gonna benefit a lot from this. And sometimes I hesitate to interview you too, because I'm like, I kind of want to give value, but I don't want to give out the secret.
I think anybody that knows me, they're like, you give a lot of information, and I do. I get people tell me that all the time.
It's good. But you know what? Like, one thing that I've noticed is that like there's enough for everyone in investment. You can't be kind of like stingy and say like, I'm gonna keep this for myself, because I think the more you give, the more comes back to you, right?
Absolutely. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, like, you talk to this one wholesaler, you probably tell him all the secrets, and like it actually comes back to you where he's selling you this, subdivision essentially.
Yeah, a great subdivision. And the funny part of that one subdivision project was that I got a lot of people asking me, like, at the time, they were like, well, how do you know? Like, how do you know this is good? And like, if it was so good, why didn't other people buy it? Like, I'm sure this wholesaler told everybody else too, right? Like, you're not the only one that he told. And, I really don't have an answer for that. Like, all I know is that the way I feel about the project, the way I've looked at it, my vision for it, what I have found, and for me, it made sense. So I grabbed it. But then the one day when we closed on that property, I swear to you, it's like everybody came and was like, oh, I wanted to buy that property.
Oh,
And I was like, what?
yeah.
Well, it's just like that, you know.
They didn't, right? It's like high risk, high reward. So you said you're a high risk taker. Yes, some things that might not necessarily go right, but then when they do, you know, it's a really good reward. So I mean, it's all good. Like they didn't buy it, you did, and you're moving forward with it.
Yeah, like this one that I was just talking to you before we got on when you hit record, we were just saying we just got a final permit approved for the smallest project that we've probably ever done.
It's a forever.
Little sixplex, and it took 2 years to get our permit.
Wow. And why? Can you tell us a little bit maybe why it took that long?
Do you want to explain that?
So what had happened is we were
what happened
was the original design of the building changed, and we had decided that we were going to move towards modular. So we went away from traditional wood frame, and we were going to go to a modular construction. Now, the city of Ottawa isn't used to this type of structure. So they want a lot of studies, a lot of reports. Their inspectors had no idea about the product. So we had the structural.
They had a really big issue with structural.
So we had to jump through hoops.
Literally for a whole year, additional
year to try to satisfy the city's engineers and the city's architects that the design was sound, was solid. Wow. So that's a risk you take when you're introducing new things to the market. You know, we were trying to do something that no one else was doing, and it was a great concept. Net zero envelope, renewable, energy saving. Thinking that we're bringing a lot of value, and the city's like, no, you're different than everybody else. So we're not sure what you're doing. So let's go through this, but we went through the process, and it was very tedious, but in the end, we got it approved.
Yeah. Okay. Right? It was kind of like a proof of concept that we were trying to get done. And like if you you and I have talked many times before, it's like I'm always trying to figure out like what's new, like what can we bring, like new designs, how can we better design so that people live in better spaces, and maybe doing something good for the environment too, so there's like a lot of like stuff I'm trying to bring forward in ideas, and modular is nothing new, nor is like net zero, any of that, right? And so I figured this is the time to do it because there's a lot of modular companies that are coming. And anyways, that is kind of our proof of concept. But the good nugget of that, like we only made about 215,000 out of that project. So that was a way smaller margin than we even expected to have. It should have easily been like 500,000 minimum, minimum.
Especially the time that it took.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that whole time we were carrying that cost.
It's just killed us, the carrying for it and all that, but it's okay. Because the only reason is we had it vacant. That was the only one property that we had vacant, because we had a buyer who was going to close on it within a month. But then that month turned into a year extra. So that's the only one that we were carrying. But where was it? The good like silver lining out of all of this is that this one modular product is now accepted in Ottawa. And now we're helping other people like design with this modular product. And one of our associates is going through the same process, and his got approved very, very quickly. Now the
trailblazers over there.
We took the bullets. We took all the bullets, right?
For that.
Well, we thank you for taking bullets for you. So amazing. I have one last question. Did you have?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I have one last question. So more related to the personal development. Dave, you talked about giving back, and I know you're big on sports, and I know also that your kids are into sports, and that's one of you kind of like your the future that you want to kind of give back. For you, Carina, I know in the last few months, actually, it hasn't even been a year, you've taken on public speaking and like coaching on another level. You know, I know you did it before, and we were one of your first students. So tell us a little bit why you decided to do this now, because you said that in the past people have approached you to do some coaching, and at that level, and you had the client. But why do you feel like you're ready now, and why did you decide to move forward with this, you know, these workshops?
So when I first started coaching, I started my coaching one-on-one. That's how you and I, like you guys did it with me, right? And I had the 10 students, and that was in itself pushing myself, because I'm not an educator, I'm not a teacher at heart, you know. It was kind of like, nor did I even have modules done. Like, I was just kind of putting things together with you guys at this. I'm just transferring my knowledge essentially by showing you examples, and like, I'm very like visual, so I was showing you examples. We did this project, it was kind of like case studies where we went through, and you know, and as the students started picking up projects, I started coaching them through the projects. So it was very like hands-on, but case study and example based, and just transferring my knowledge. So then it turned out to be like a really nice experience, because at first I was like, oh, this is going to be a lot of work, and it was, but it turned out to be really fulfilling for me, because then I realized, like, wow, like people are actually getting results, and I can see the growth in my students, and I actually like really like love my students, and I was like, this is really, really nice. For the first time, I was like, there's this part of my fulfillment inside of me that I never had before. And I was like, this is really cool. I never knew that this could be created. And then when Wealth Genius, so Alfonso, reached out to me to join the Wealth Genius group, I kind of was already thinking, how can I take what I've done now, but like really scale it? Because one-on-one, it's not scalable. Yes. And I was already tapped out. So when he approached me, I thought, okay, this is interesting. But I had already been approached by a few other platforms as well, because land development course, like, there really isn't a lot, if any, at all. So now I know of 2 of them that have just launched in the last like year or so. So, but before then, at the time, like, there really isn't much out there. So I really investigated into Wealth Genius. I really like the platform. I really like Alfonso. I think we jive really well. We have the same values. We're pretty much like the same person, which is really crazy. And like, I liked his model, because I'm like, the students still get a coach, which is really nice. Not a lot of platforms have that. And I just, everybody had the same response when they talked about Alfonso, which is their respect and admiration for what he does. And I really like that a lot, because that's, for me, is very big, is to really have results for the students. It's not about the number of students, it's about the quality. So I joined that, and you know, we've started creating the modules and putting them on online. And then that kind of forced me to go into public speaking, like you were mentioning earlier, because then the whole point is that I'm the face, right? And I'm there to present and show what we have available as in the land development stream. And so as part of that, like, new role, I'm now presenting to a lot of people. And so when Alfonso asked me, like, you're gonna present, and I was like, no, like, I'll do the modules, I'll teach, but I'm not presenting. And that's completely different from him, because he's like so good at teaching, about presenting. Like, he's so good at all of that. So he helped me out a little bit there, but Alfonso is really mentoring me a lot. So is Mark Frentz, who's another coach there. So I'm getting a lot of coaching, and it's made me grow like exponentially, because if you would have told me, like, you're going to present in front of like 100 people, for me, that would have been no, like, I could not even do that. And now I've done it.
Yeah. And we were front row and center watching you do it. It was such an honor, because we've known you for a couple of years now, and just to know that, like, you went from that fear to being like, well, I've done it, you know, not I'm doing it, but I've done it. It's kind of cool to see that growth in you. And also it goes to show that like a lot of people see you as like a figure of success, right? You know, in the land development space. But it shows that like there's always growth. Like even if you're very successful, there's growth in different categories or aspects of your life. And nobody, like no matter where you are, you can go further, right? And I think you're a good example.
You could be in any phase in your life, and there's still growth, and there's still learning to do, and there's still like leveling up. You know, there's still all of that, no matter where you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I think the best part of the fact that this aspect of your business is giving you so much fulfillment, which like not a lot of people can say about what they do on a daily basis. So I definitely commend you for that. I don't know if you could tell how excited Sarah was during this interview, because I could like, I'm just here just like feeling the energy of how excited she is. So thank you very much for blessing us and gracing us with your presence on this interview. If people want to reach you, how can they reach you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. You just Google my name, Carina Guzmán, or you can Google or Instagram the Land Development Queen.
It's called a handle, Carina.
A handle. That's right. Thank you. The handle is the Land Development Queen.
Okay.
You can find me there.
We'll definitely put it in the description. We'll put it at the bottom of the screen as well, so that they can reach out to both of you. We're like Lena was saying, we're blessed to just know you guys as friends, and you guys are just awesome energy. Love you kids, you know. They're great too. So we'll definitely, you know, soon this episode should be ready, and I'm excited to release it and get all the feedback from everyone else. I'm sure this is not the last time we'll have you guys on, probably when the subdivision is a little bit further along the way, or even just like your coaching career and whatnot. We would love to have you guys on.
We'll do a little precursor. We have upcoming projects, so maybe we can fill you in on the next steps.
Yes.
What's coming down the pipeline and what we're going to be concentrating on next.
Yeah. Before we even end, how did it feel, Dave, to see her on that stage?
That was kind of cool.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like it just goes from like
that was kind of cool.
Fear of public speaking to, you know.
Yeah, but you know, honestly, Carina's always has this anxiety about, okay, the first time she went on a podcast, she was always anxious. First time she went on TV, she was anxious. So the first time so I already knew that she could do it. Yeah. She just didn't know she could do it. So I was like, told you, you know.
He does. He always says that.
Yeah.
You saw it in you before you saw it in yourself.
Yeah, well, you know, I've been through all the stages that she's been through because I've done all that stuff. Mm. So I know what it feels like to be in that position, and you know how you feel. You're all nervous and stuff. And I was like, you know, it's not like when you used to play football, right? And then you know, before a game, you're so nervous, you puke, and then you know you get it out of the way, and it's over. You know, here, you know, right? Here you have some butterflies. You get on stage, you hit that first zinger, and then as soon as you hit it, it's like everything just clicks, and then it's smooth after that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Awesome. Well, here you go. There's your football analogy there.
You got in. You got.
I got it in. I got it in.
Yeah, you had to get it in.
Sports had to come in here somewhere.
Of course. How can it not with the both of you there?
Oh my gosh.
All right, guys. Thank you so much again. And until next time, thank you for our viewers for watching this episode. And as always, don't forget to live your truth.